Welcome back to New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creatives, thinkers, and doers. It is I, the mayor, Flobo Voice, in the mayor's office, hanging with those who are making it happen. And my guest today is making it happen. I have Mr. Randy Chambliss on today's podcast. He's the executive director of the Louisiana Housing Authority, a corporate mortgage bank manager with Geneva Financial, a real estate developer, a financial educator, speaker, and co-host of the Mortgagewise radio show and podcast. That is a mouthful, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for that great introduction. I'm honored and privileged to be here, man. I'm excited. You're doing some great things.
Thank you so much. This is where I say you do a lot, but that's obviously a lot, man. How do you find the time to balance all that stuff?
You know, it's part of my life because everything revolves around real estate, my family. And so everything that you just spoke about all intertwines together.
Okay, let's get into it. Tell me about your story, man. How did you get started? How did you get involved in this crazy world, man? Like, what was your first inciting incident?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I look at my life right now in the reality, and it's almost breathtaking because when I look back at my life, I almost have to use a telescope because I came so far. You know, this has been an amazing experience. My life is barely recognizable right now. You know, you talked about some of the highlights that I have currently, but I think it's fair that people do know my story. And I'm glad you asked that question because some people need that motivation. They need that inspiration. They're giving up on life, especially as we're going through this world that we're going through right now. And so they have to understand that they have to have hope, right? Hope gives you power today. So I hope my story give them some power to know and believe that they could do, be, and have anything they want in this life, right? And so my journey started off in New Orleans, Louisiana. I was born and raised there. I come from a two-parent household. Both my mother and father was there, beautiful parents. They gave me the inspiration I need, the scriptures I need, the encouragement I need. But they wasn't wealthy. They wasn't rich. They was middle-class working parents. My dad, in fact, was a construction worker and a maintenance tech all his life. My mother, she was working and she decided and made a decision to stay home to raise me as I was young. And when I became a teenager to do more for myself, she went back to work, but she was working as a domestic worker. So, you know, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, as they will say, right? My parents were hard workers, and I had an older brother who was 11 years older than me, and he used to share stories of things that happened in the past that I did not know about, and stories of things he went through as a teenager in hopes that I could avoid some of the mistakes that he made, because he was always that encourager. But even though I had come from a two-parent household, even though I had that extra support with my brother, I still became an at-risk youth growing up in the city of New Orleans.
Really?
In fact, I got it. Yeah, man, it's crazy. And in New Orleans at that time was known as the murder capital of the world. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it was a privilege and honor for an African-American male to even turn 21 in the city. You know, my friends that I was in an environment with, they was either going to jail, being murdered on the street. And I realized that, you know, that wasn't going to be my direction. So, you know, as a teenager growing up, I became an at-risk youth, got in trouble twice with the law. Thank goodness, thank God I wasn't never convicted of any crimes or anything. But it taught me some serious lessons. And I became a struggling teenage father real quickly in my life. And I was able to go to school, got to get a trade, and I was working as an acquisition technician, and I became an engineer, operating stationary engineer for the city of New Orleans. And so I started to make pretty good money. And by the time 2005 came, that's when Hurricane Katrina came and destroyed the city of New Orleans. And I found myself homeless at that point. Water was to the roof of my home. Couldn't even save a photo in that home that I was living in. And at the time, my income was good, but I was spending it right out the door, you know, because I didn't have a financial education, right? I didn't have a financial plan in place. So I was making good money, but I was spending good money, cars, clothes, all that craziness. And at the time Katrina hit, we left that day before it actually hit. Katrina hit on Monday. I left that Tuesday with my family, and I had less than $500 in my savings account. My credit score was horrible. It was in the low 500s. I'll tell anybody that. And I was broken. I was busted. I hit rock bottom. And so at that point, I knew something had to change. Thank goodness the Most High God did not allow us to stall. He kept the roof over our head as we were transitioning. We actually went to Atlanta, Georgia, and Atlanta, Georgia showed us a lot of love. And so from that standpoint, I knew that I had to get my finances in order. I had to do better with managing my money. So I found a couple of mentors. My older brother, who's 11 years older, who I mentioned, was a mentor of mine. He had just purchased his own home like 2 years prior, and he was educating me on the home buying process and sharing resources with me. And so I was disciplined. I took massive action. I was focused. And within 1 year, in December 2006, I actually bought my first home at the young age of 26 years old.
Wow.
And then, yeah, man, in addition to that, 30 days later, I bought my first investment property. It was a duplex. So I was able to cash flow with that. So obviously, family members and friends and, my colleagues was like, how did you do that? Like, how you go from being homeless, broke, busted, and disgusted, horrible credit score, no money in the bank, to buying your first home and investment property a year later, right? And so I found myself, teaching them and sharing that information and sharing my resources that I had in education. And I found a passion for it, man. And I realized that this is a critical tool of home ownership and financial education, and belief in yourself is a critical tool to creating generational wealth, right? And so, I became licensed as a mortgage loan originator back in 2008. And as I fast forward a little bit in the future, I met my wife, Veronica Chambliss, right around, she was working at a bank, a global bank. And we connected and we started flipping properties together, buying them, rehabbing them, reselling them. And we started doing it very aggressively in our community. We was hiring people that didn't have jobs. We was using their skill set to be able to help build the housing stock in the community, but at the same time bring jobs, sustainable jobs. And as we started buying these houses and flipping them and selling them, we was doing it so aggressively, we started teaching classes of how to do it. We started providing the resources and giving them access to the capital that we had to be able to go and do the same thing. Because remember, New Orleans, even to this day, 16 plus years later, there are still houses that's totally gutted, that's totally off the market in New Orleans. And so we was building our investment team to be able to help bring these houses back to the inventory. And so we started building new construction homes in our community. We built a ton of those. And then we transitioned to making sure that everybody had access to capital to be able to buy their properties. And so that is what, my friend, that brought me to the point today to have the passion and the commitment to be able to give back to our community because of what I went through.
We'll talk about paying it forward, the Louisiana Housing Authority. Was that the reason why you created it, to educate others? Was there any other reason that pulled you to create this organization?
Man, that's a phenomenal question. And that is the exact reason why my wife and I chose to create this organization. Basically, Louisiana Housing Authority, to keep it simple, is a private, trusted housing advocate initiative, right? We advocate on behalf of home ownership. And it's a resource provider, right? We have all the resources for individuals to make that transition from renting to home ownership. As a result of our expert guidance, and clear action plan, we've helped many people achieve their dream of home ownership and financial security through Geneva Financial. We're going to talk a little bit about that too, if you will.
Sure.
Our home buyers feel empowered, right? They feel determined, they feel inspired, but more importantly, they feel educated on a home buying process, and it gives them the power to move forward with confidence. And so basically, we just give them expert guidance from our past experience. We give them a clear action plan to help them avoid mistakes and actually save on money.
Speaking of things that I thought was confusing, I made mistakes on. Can you tell me more about down payment assistance programs? I saw some of your videos about that, and I was like, "Oh wow, it's pretty cool. You're helping people out that." But for someone who's not initiated, who's not really familiar with it, can you explain that for us?
Sure, absolutely. So we have a couple of down payment assistance programs. One is for the average worker. That person, doesn't matter what their occupation is. So whatever that down payment that they need, typically if they're a first-time home buyer, not always, FHA is usually what they use, which requires 3.5% down, right? not 20% down, but 3.5% down. And so what we do, we're able to bring in a down payment assistant that help them cover that cost of that down payment. For example, a $200,000 home loan, 3.5% of that will be $7,000. Well, when we offer a down payment assistance program, that will cover that $7,000. And so that's the first down payment assistance. And we have another one that we're just super excited about as well. And it's for our heroes, right? It's a 100% financing Heroes Housing Initiative and Benefits Program. A lot of our heroes don't know that they have access to these extra benefits. They're just not aware of it. So that's why we're advocates of making sure they are aware of it. So
wait, who qualifies as a hero? Who qualifies as a hero? I know Batman doesn't need a house; he's rich. But like, who's their actual hero in their life?
Absolutely. So qualified heroes are individuals that's not limited to current and former firefighters, police officers, all first responders, right? And also all healthcare workers, whether they are a nurse, registered nurse, CNA, if they're a doctor, anybody, and all healthcare professionals qualify as a hero, including our teachers, because oftentimes our teachers get left out of being heroes. So our teachers, nurses, even our veterans, whether they are current in the military as well. So those are our heroes. We appreciate them. It's a huge thank you to them on behalf of Louisiana Housing Authority, because they work tireless in our community to create a safe environment and to be able to educate us.
That's really good to hear. Like a lot of teachers, I feel like, don't get the appreciation they love. And so the fact they can qualify for this is amazing. You had mentioned Geneva Financial. What's the role that organization plays within the communities you serve? Like, what's your relationship with that?
Sure, great question. Basically, I'm a corporate branch manager, like you mentioned, with Geneva Financial, and we're in 42 different states. We have 130 plus branches. And one of my roles is to be able to open up new branches in different states, hire managers, hire loan officers, oversee them to be able to create more market shares, to be able to help lend more in the communities that we're serving. Obviously, my wife and my wife, I should mention too, she's a corporate branch manager along with me. She's a realtor as well, multi-million-dollar producing realtor. Of course, she's an investor along with me. So as you can imagine, our whole conversation throughout our house, but me and her and the kids is all about, real estate, building the community, mindset development, and just enjoying ourselves. Every day we wake up and having a mindset that we want to be happy, joyful, exciting, and create those same type of experiences. So what Geneva Financial is basically our mortgage division, that we use to qualify individuals to help them get access to the loans. And so by us being managers, producing mortgage loan originators, we know what the guidelines are. We know exactly what steps to take. And so if that person is willing to get educated, to learn more about this process, then we can take them to the promised land and get those keys in their hand. And so when I couple that with Louisiana Housing Authority, when you go to lahousingaauthority.org, you'll see a ton of educational videos, a ton of educational content that we're recorded, just like you're doing right now. Like, this is a phenomenal platform that you have. And I'm just, again, grateful that we're here. And my wife and I, we do the same exact thing. We do podcasts to be able to, and we may mention that, be able to share vital information. And we record them and put them on Louisiana Housing Authority underneath the education tab. So at any given time, at their pace, they can go and click on the video and watch, learn, and take some notes.
Well, I mean, if you're in the podcast space, welcome and thank you. But I heard that you do the Mortgagewise podcast. So I'd have two questions. Why do you see the need for it? And what's been the experience so far with the Mortgagewise podcast?
Sure. So the experience has been great. It even builds a better connection with my wife and I, because we have to commit to the topic for that day. We have to actually be in the video doing the podcast, and it just brings us even closer. Number two, the education behind it, right? We bring expert advisors on from time to time. We have city leaders that come on, council members, ex-council members, former council members. We have the the president of the New Orleans School Board came on. We have Louisiana representative from the state. So we're just bringing a lot of people that have some influence that can back the education piece up, because homeownership advocacy is a huge, huge thing for us. That's our mission. And so as we bring these individuals on the platform, we can be able to reach more people. And so we created it because we just found that there's a lack of accurate information that's floating around real estate, right? And so we found that education is power, but if the information is not accurate, then it cannot allow that person to achieve the dream of home ownership, because guidelines change almost so frequently. And so by us being in the space, we understand those guidelines. We do a lot of study and research. So we just want to make sure the studies that we have done, we're able to bring that to the Mortgagewise radio show. And now it gives people a platform to go there, read, study, listen, take notes. So now they feel empowered, they feel determined, and they feel educated on the home buying process.
So LA Housing Authority on one side, Geneva Financial on the other side, the Mortgagewise Podcast on the other side, got a bit of an empire going. So I got to ask, man, so many things, so many irons in the fire. Like how do you measure results? What's some of the results your team has accomplished? What are some things you call wins as you grow?
Sure, absolutely. The win is just to see that client with those keys in their hand, right? That's the win. And so over the years, we have helped many people achieve their goal of home ownership by giving them the education they need for financial, to be able to give them responsible home ownership education. And if they implement, and a lot of people have done it already, they implement what we've done. Now they could get in a position that they're able to be qualified for a mortgage. And once they're qualified for a mortgage, they have their credit scores together, like I had to do when I was 26 years old. They have their savings together, like I had the experience when I was 26 years old. And they have the education, they have the income, right? So they have everything that they need to qualify for a mortgage. And once that happened, now it's just they go out with confidence and start shopping for their dream home, right? Because they lender, we have already through Geneva Financial saw all their financials. We already gave them a pre-approval. So now they're going out in the marketplace, they're excited, they're confident. And once they find their dream home, now it's just about actually just getting to the closing table, processing them and getting to the closing table. So, we just wanted to bring that education piece out, because without that, they get misinformation and delays their process.
Man, having the education is one thing, but paying it forward and sharing it's a whole other thing. And I got to say, thank you so much, because a lot of people say, you know what, the game is to be sold, not told. But be able to say, hey, look, I'm going to have a resource for someone else, that means a lot. But if someone's watching or listening right now and they want to learn more about what your team does, how do they go about doing that?
Sure, great question. So a couple of platforms, LAHousingAuthority.org. They could go there and give a ton of information. If they want to connect with me on social media, I am on both Facebook and Instagram at Mr. Randy Chambliss. Also, Louisiana Housing Authority is on Facebook as well. My direct number, right? Most people don't give their direct number. Listen, my direct number is 504-270-2783. You can text me, you can give me a call. If also, you could just call our corporate office at 504-356-9100, and one of my representatives that will connect with you.
And if you're one of our international listeners that want to have property in the United States, the international code is 1. So make sure that one first to get out. Wow, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creators. I want you back soon, or rather than later, because I want to see how your team grows and what's next for your squad. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Listen, God bless, and you enjoy the rest of your day on purpose.